till I reach the top somehow.
Oh yes, my Straight Talk family, when you hear that theme song, you know it is time for me to say greetings to the world, and also time for me to say good night, St. Kitts and Nevis, and good night to the entire Caribbean region. We reach and we communicate with you all the way down south to Trinidad and Tobago, or a matter of fact, we go on the South American mainland and hail our friends in Guyana. Come down to Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica, Martinique, Guadeloupe, Bonsoir, Antigua and Barbuda, Montserrat. I haven't heard you for some time, just that you are in the house still. Then we go across the Narrows to Nevis. Then we go, yes, we said St. Kitts and Nevis already, but we go west to St. Eustatius, Sabre, St. Martin, St. Bartholomew, and Anguilla. How is the BVI? Totola, Virgin Gorda, and Negada. How is the USVI? St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John. How is Puerto Rico? Buenas noches, Puerto Rico. And of course, we reach and touch you in the diaspora. We reach and communicate with you in the diaspora all around the globe. There's some of you in Asia. There are some of you in Africa. There's some of you in Europe. And there are a whole lot of you all over North America. So I am at liberty to say good night. I am at liberty to say good morning. And I am at liberty as well to say good afternoon, because one of such greetings will be applicable to the region in which you now find yourselves. And just to welcome all to Straight Talk, and in particular the first timers, and we thank those who share the link. We thank you in the process, and welcome our first timers, and to inform them that Straight Talk is a public service program that facilitates, promotes free expression on all issues of national, regional, and international discourse. We also promote free expression on this program. We also try to raise the level of national, regional, and international consciousness. We try to raise the level of national, regional, and international discourse. And we do facilitate free expression on all issues, be they legal, environmental, technological, social, economic, and or political issues. On this program, we do have a forum to express yourselves freely, on the line freely. And my name is Ian Patches Liebert, and I thank Almighty God for blessing me with the opportunity to join you in conversation on yet another occasion. And we say hola, we say hello to all our visitors here on the beautiful island of St. Kitts, or within the beautiful federation, I should say, of St. Kitts and Nevis. 2 islands and 1 lovely paradise. We are here for Caricom 50. We trust you are enjoying yourselves. Trust you've found some time outside of the thorny issues to just lay down your hair, get to the beach, have a cocktail, but find some time to enjoy the wonderful hospitality of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And as your host, if you're joining me for the first time, I pledge to remain an untiring advocate of truthfulness, as I'm always guided by the words of a hymn, a favorite hymn of mine, written by Thomas Jackson and Franz Joseph Haydn. And an excerpt which I love so much goes something like this. We are called to be God's prophets, speaking for the truth and right, standing firm for godly justice, bringing all those evil things to light. So let us seek the courage needed, our high calling to fulfill, that we all may know the blessing of the doing of God's will. And having said that, my Straight Talk family, may I inform you as well that absolutely nothing is watered down on this program. We never try to make it more interesting, neither by omission or exaggeration. We are not about sensationalism. We are not about creating excitement, especially if that comes at the expense of accuracy. Because we lean on the facts, as it is my bounden duty to present what I call the unvarnished truth, the plain truth, especially when it comes to governance, transparency, accountability, and all integrity and all that goes with it, my Straight Talk family. Whether we are in Kitts and Nevis or wherever we are on the globe. Because this program joins us together with people across our federation, and we are joined with people in the diaspora all around the world. And some will disagree, and some will agree on the positions of truth that we always advance on this program. And that's fine, because we are a different people. So we entertain what I call a diversity of views. But please don't ever sadden me and start to become disagreeable. In the meanwhile, let's thank Almighty God for helping us to understand, oh, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Let's therefore hope and pray for that day when we will all sing His praise together. So welcome again, my people, and thanks for those who share the link. You bring us first-timers, and for the first-timers, if you love it, go tell the whole world. If you don't, find a way to come and tell me, because it's all about continuous improvement every program. May I remind you as well that Straight Talk is a participative program. By that I mean at some stage we open the lines, we entertain your calls, we include your calls, we include your emails. And if you're so minded calling, the numbers are on your screen. Yes, the numbers are on your screen. So to the email, because some of you like what I call the cloak of anonymity. We also heard on Alexa. For those who have that app, just say Alexa play Massive Vibes Radio. And my Straight Talk family, we say thank you again for joining us. We say a special welcome to our Straight Talk Junior Brigade. We have to. We must hail our Junior Brigade. Young Dwayne, Tristan, Jasmine, Shema, Kevin, Rue, Jamal, Travis, Travon, Neymar, my grandson, and Soraya, his good friend, Elizabeth, and that special lady in St. Louis, as well as Carla over there. We always start with our observations in review. That's the time when we highlight some current issues. We do some reflection, we ask a few questions. What was accomplished, for example, how it helped others, what changed since, and what we have learned as a people. Because it's a learning process here on Straight Talk. Each one teach one. And after our observations, we will move right into our thesis for tonight, which I have titled Caricom at 50, Big Elephants in the Room. And our first observation that arises from the fact that a lot of questions about the Frigate Bay Development Corporation and the announcement made by Terence Michael Drew to what I call barter land in that area. He said he bought land at no capital outlay for the government. Those are my words. He said it cost the government nothing. But in fact, it cost the government 725 shares or investment units from the CBI, the Citizenship by Investment Program. And those 725 shares can translate into a maximum of 2,900 visitors or new citizens, because we allow 4 per applicant, a spouse, and 2 children. But Straight Talk is still trying to verify whether Mr. Dizeng had in fact paid for some 49 acres of land on the Frigate Bay Road. We are still trying to get that information. We have not confirmed that he in fact paid for this land for which Joe swapped passports. Remember, he said this.
What is this going to do? We intend there will be a 47.97 acre parcel. We will use some of that, subdivide it into residential and commercial lots with a clear focus on providing young citizens access to land ownership. So this move is to get our people to be able to build in Frigate Bay. So I want our people to understand that we are going to create this scenario. What we want to do is break down barriers and any issue that people might raise with respect to. Over here is for a certain set of people and over there for a next set. We are eliminating that, and we'll make lots available for our ordinary people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So if you have a young professional, it doesn't matter which part of the country they may.
And my Straight Talk family, he did say Frigate Bay, and I want to correct that, because in fact that 47-acre parcel, which we are trying to confirm that it in fact belonged to Victor Zeng, is not on Frigate Bay. It's on Earl Moon / Frigate Bay. But in the meantime, we received and confirmed complaints from residents in the area of the Gulf Coast there in Frigate Bay about a stinking stench about the sewage plant, which is obviously gone beyond its lifespan, and it's smelling like an overflow of a full pit latrine. For those of you who had the experience of being or using pit latrines, it smells stink. I experienced that myself. I can confirm, my Straight Talk family, that the sewage plant there in Frigate Bay, the stench is inexplicable, my Straight Talk family. The sewage plant, we understand it's well over 30 years old. So we don't know if it's malfunctioning, but something is wrong. And hear this. I almost every resident in proximity to the plant, and I overlooked taking that photograph, because I like to provide you with the evidence. But take my word, almost every resident in proximity to that plant has a for sale sign mounted on their property. So they're running away, because we understand that this stench has existed for well over a year. and part of the covenant within the Frigate Bay area, the Frigate Bay Development Corporation should have provided sewage treatment plan for every house in Frigate Bay. We understand that is not done. And this plant has obviously outlived its capacity. Now, remember as well, my Spirit Dog family, I told you that GADA signed an illegal contract, and someone had the tenacity to challenge me on that fact. And we don't talk idly here on Street Talk. GADA signed an illegal contract for over $50 million for a purported golf course in La Valley. But all of you know La Valley. If you don't, take a drive down to the countryside. You go west past Sandy Point. There used to be a long green fence long time ago. And tell me, you won't see the fence. You won't see La Valley. You see bushes. But there is no golf course. And GADA never gave an account for the $1 million missing. My Sewage family. This is the contract that GADA signed. It's on your monitors. See, he signed it as Minister of Tourism. We always bring you the evidence because we don't take things lightly. We bring you the facts because one thing we don't take lightly is the credibility of this program and its host. And this money, the money for this contract, could have built several sewage plants. Several sewage plants. We don't know if this has gone beyond the statutes of limitation, if that's the right term. But this has to be malfeasance on the part of the former Minister of Tourism, GADA. As the Frigate Bay Development Corporation, the legislation clearly delineates the area vested in the corporation, my Sewage family. And again, we provide you the evidence. This is the evidence, my Sewage family. And it tells you quite clearly the area delineated and shown on a plan dated April 1970. The plan of the area to be vested in the Frigate Bay Corporation, identified under the hand of the minister as being the plan referred to in the bill, an act entitled An Act to Provide for Vesting of Lands situate at Frigate Bay in the island of St. Christopher, known as Frigate Bay Estate, in the Frigate Bay Development Corporation, a body constituted for the purpose of undertaking and encouraging the development of Frigate Bay and for matters incidental. It continues. So how on earth can GADA go and sign a contract to develop a golf course in La Valley? And that has to be, as I said, my Sewage family, malfeasance. We don't know. We don't know if it's too late. The time has gone. But GADA speaks eloquently when you hear him talk about the Frigate Bay and the land that the government purportedly bought through CBI shares. And he praises the Prime Minister. But GADA speaks eloquently about 53 years ago. He knows about the lands 53 years ago, but he can't remember 23 years when he signed that contract. And he comes, and we will never accept this, my Straight Talk family. Never must we accept this.
Apparently, he wants me to explain to the nation why I, as a minister, signed an agreement. Well, it seems as though he wants me to explain why I signed I'm told that he said he's not accusing anybody of bubble, but that he was just asking, where's the money? That's what I'm told, right? And I don't remember. But let me say what I have to say. I'm not saying it didn't happen.
Can't say it didn't happen. And we need to cite him for malfeasance, I say one more time. Our second observation, my straight dog family, and recall that one of the world's top newspapers, the Financial Times, reported on the Destiny Project. And just today, another top news journal, this time the New York Times, has reported on the Destiny Project. As you see the headlines, Dubai of the Caribbean with crypto. Lands aren't, or locals aren't buying it. I know locals will never buy this, my straight dog family. Because no local can accept that this Belgian man, Mati says he's a Nevisian. He bought our passport, yes. So he has dual citizenship. But he's a Belgian. He'll never give up his Belgian citizenship ever if he really loves and gets a Nevis. But here he comes. Wants to sell your passports, you and I, our passports, let's say, allowed some 10,000 CBI shares and wants or applied for 10,000 shares, wants to sell our passports, buy your land, your passport, and buy your land. And the Premier accepts this. But you know, my straight dog family, what's very interesting about this whole saga? The Financial Times tried to contact Premier Mark Anthony Graham Brantley. He declined to comment. The New York Times contacted Mark Anthony Graham Brantley, the Premier. He declined to comment. I thought he would speak to these world-circulated, well-circulated news journals to get his program, to get his project out and about. Why isn't he speaking with the Financial Times or the New York Times? Is he afraid that they ask him about Sharon Mama Brantley and the go-between arrangement? What is he afraid of? Is he afraid that the only realtor, the only real estate agent for this project is his wife, Sharon Mama Brantley? And these are the conflict of conflict of interest situations, beg your pardon, that he doesn't want to talk about his household earnings from this project. But those are my observations for tonight, my straight dog family. And I'm going to spend some more time on my thesis, which I've titled, as I stated earlier, Caricom at 50, Big Elephants in the Room. And my straight dog family, the reassertion of hemispheric primacy in the United States National Security Strategy, the NSS, dated November 2025, under Donald Trump. This reassertion of this strategy or hemispheric primacy in the U.S. national security strategy simply means that the United States is explicitly placing the Western Hemisphere, of which the Caribbean is a part, so too the Americas. But the United States has placed, I should say, the Western Hemisphere at the top of its strategic priority list, and seeking to be the dominant power in this region as a foundation for its national security and prosperity. Interpreted by some analysts as a Trump corollary to the James Monroe era, Monroe Doctrine, signaling renewed American resistance to extra hemispheric influence, particularly from China and Russia. And it was over 2 centuries ago, on December the 2nd, 1823 to be exact, President James Monroe delivered in writing his 7th annual address to Congress, the equivalent to of today's State of the Union address. We heard from President Trump last night. In the middle of an otherwise forgettable summary of national issues, Monroe presented what would become a classic statement of U.S. foreign policy, the Monroe Doctrine. Monroe asserted that the Western Hemisphere was off limits to further European colonization and claimed the right for the United States to protect the sovereignty of the independent republics in the Western Hemisphere. Both claims were bold statements that the country had no way of backing up. But these were just bluffs, it is reported, and were based on a shrewd diplomatic analysis that signaled to the world the far-reaching ambitions of the young country, young independent United States of America. Meanwhile, today in the 21st century, Caribbean community, Caricom states, facing structural economic vulnerabilities and heavy reliance on tourism, have pursued diversified diplomatic and financial partnerships, especially with China, to finance infrastructure and development. Now, this has produced tensions over debt sustainability, according to the IMF, security risk, and citizenship by investment or CBI programs. It has caused transnational crime, narcotics trafficking, and the illegal flow of U.S. manufactured arms into the region. Let's not forget that. And Marco Rubio spoke to that just yesterday. Many pundits argue that the long-standing Caribbean diplomatic posture of being friends of all and satellites of none is increasingly untenable in a fragmented and competitive geopolitical order, and some Caricom leaders have started to echo that very sentiment. In no uncertain terms, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago was forthright in so doing and said this, my Straight Dog family.
And today, I have to say some things that may be good and kind, but I have to also face the reality of what is happening in my own country, in Trinidad and Tobago. And so I welcome the words of Prime Minister Holness when he spoke of the balanced way that he looked at the Caricom. We all have different pathways to walk, but our destination, our goal, our aim is the same. It's for a better quality of life for the people in our country and for the whole of the region.
And my Straight Dog family, Caricom must transition from passive non-alignment to strategic autonomy grounded in regional integration, security reform, economic diversification, and calibrated engagement with major powers. Simultaneously, the United States must modernize its hemispheric engagement to address legitimate Caribbean concerns, especially firearms trafficking and development financing, if it expects alignment. The time for leaders to stop burying their heads in the proverbial sand and address the elephant in the room, identified by Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar during the 50th Caricom Heads of Government meeting, is something we cannot overlook, my Straight Talk family. We cannot overlook this at all. And it's about time, like I said, we stop burying our heads in the sand. My Straight Talk family, we do have to do this.
In 2024, crime was being treated as a public health gimmick. It was dubbed a public health issue. It's not a public health issue. Because of the crime, you're not alive to get any public health. You're dead. And so I come to the elephant that might be in the room. I come to the USA and the cooperation that we had with the USA. Thanks to President Trump, thanks to Secretary Rubio and the U.S. military. I say thank you today for standing firm against narco-trafficking, human and arms smuggling originated from Venezuela. That is what we were facing in Trinidad and Tobago. Maybe some of you other islands in the Caribbean, your nations do not have that level of illegal migration and, of course, the crime.
So my Straight Talk family, the widening geopolitical rifts over Venezuela, Cuba, security cooperation with the United States, and economic pressures including decreasing citizenship by investment revenues, CBI revenues for St. Kitts and Nevis, and other member states, and U.S. visa restriction on Dominica along with Antigua and Barbuda, citing the lack of a residency requirement under the CBI programs offered by these two OASIS countries. Now, under the administration of Donald Trump, the U.S. National Security Strategy, which I mentioned earlier, framed China and Russia as revisionist powers challenging American influence globally. And my Straight Talk family, applied to the Western Hemisphere, this amounted to a revivalist interpretation, as I mentioned earlier, of the Monroe doctrine, an implicit warning against strategic footholds by extra-regional actors. From Washington's perspective, Chinese infrastructure financing, port development, telecommunications penetration, and diplomatic expansion in the Caribbean pose potential dual-use risks: civilian to military conversion, intelligence vulnerabilities, and leverage through debt dependency. However, Caribbean states view Chinese engagement primarily through a development lens, as a pragmatic response to insufficient Western financing, slow multilateral lending processes, and climate vulnerability. The disconnect between U.S. security framing and Caribbean development framing is at the heart of the tension, I submit. So Caricom 50 has brought leaders of the region together, not merely to celebrate decades of regional cooperation, but to confront, honestly, the elephant in the room. A set of profound challenges that test the coherence and unity of our community at its very core. Over the past months, the pressures facing our region have multiplied, from the steadily declining revenues of the CBI programs that many of our governments have relied upon for development, to the intensifying geopolitical tensions involving major partners and neighbors. We find ourselves at a crossroads. As was laid bare in recent speeches by some of our own, we can no longer avoid the reality that our foundational commitments to peace, solidarity, collective action, and shared prosperity are being strained like never before. My Straight Talk family. Prime Minister Kamala was unrelenting with her statements.
We took very careful note of what happened in the Caricom in 2025 when my government chose to lend support then to the Nicolas Maduro regime, and despite repeated threats against two fellow Caricom members from Venezuela, most of the Caricom stood against the two. Only two were threatened. One was Guyana, still under threat. I openly said that if they touch Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago will be there with you and stand with you. And the other was Trinidad and Tobago. We are threatened, and we are still threatened by Venezuela. I'll say a little more about that in a moment. So how could the Caricom be a zone of peace when a narco dictator who imprisoned and killed thousands of civilians and opposition members, you will see recently over 300 persons from the opposition in Venezuela have been released. They were in prison because of politics. So how can it be when that regime was threatening violence to two CARICOM member states, there was no voice from the CARICOM? We were talking about a zone of peace. And in my respectful view, my country is not a zone of peace, and I'll tell you why.
Yes. Kamala Prasad told the gathering why. This is what she said, and this is why.
That's what the crime is like. So don't talk to me about a zone. So in 2024, crime was being treated as a public health gimmick. It was dubbed a public health issue. It's not a public health issue. Because of the crime, you're not alive to get any public health. You're dead. That's what the crime is like. So don't talk to me about a zone of peace when I will tell you, Trinidad and Tobago, 1.4 million people. We recorded 623 murders in 1 year, in 2024. And 40% of those murders, they were gang-related, driven by narcotics, by firearms smuggling from Venezuela, and gangs coming out of Venezuela and mingling and mixing with gangs in Trinidad. In 2025, change of government, change of policy to treat with the drug cartels and the gangs as violent terrorist organizations. The military action by the American military in the Caribbean caused, you know what happened in our country? Caused our murder rate to decrease by 42%. You know what that meant? There were 257 less murders in TNT. I can say thanks again to President Trump. And thanks again to Secretary Rubio, Marco Rubio. I thank them and the U.S. military for the cooperation and what is shared with us for national security matters.
And my Straight Talk family, in this meeting, CARICOM 50, there were many differences, not merely of emphasis, but of direction. How do we approach Cuba's humanitarian crisis, for example? How do we engage with the United States in the face of criminal threats? And how do we respond as a community when member states feel threatened by external actors such as Venezuela? Trinidad and Tobago demonstrated their way of engagement in the face of criminal threats and partnered with the USA. This is what Trinidad and Tobago did.
To partner with the U.S. is not to undermine the Caribbean region, but to defend it. TNT will continue to cooperate with the U.S. in the best interests of our citizens to drive destabilizing and destructive forces out of our country, out of our region, and out of our hemisphere.
And my Straight Talk family, this debate is not academic. It is existential. And Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, was very clear, pellucid in supporting the rights of all members to protect their territorial integrity. Holness said this.
There is also the closely related matter of territorial integrity. As small states with vast maritime spaces and strategically important geographies, we each face pressures, external claims, illicit incursions, and evolving geopolitical interests that can challenge the sanctity of our borders. While our approaches may differ, our commitment to the principle is shared. Every member of Caricom has the right to decide how best to defend its territory and maritime domain, and it is reasonable for them to expect the solidarity of every member state to that end.
And yes, my Straight Talk family, Holness opined as well. And I repeat, that it is reasonable to expect solidarity from every member state. At this 50th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of Caricom, that concludes tomorrow, it convened under the theme, Beyond Words, Action Today for a Thriving, Sustainable Caricom. The mood was reflective, but unmistakably tense. 50 years after the Treaty of Chaguaramas, leaders celebrated regional endurance, yet beneath the ceremonial tone lay hard truths that could not be ignored. Incoming chair Terence Michael Drew tried to strike a unifying tone, though critics observe reticence on the geopolitical sensitivities surrounding Venezuela and Cuba. And Drew attempted what he called full disclosure. Drew attempted full disclosure.
I must give full disclosure. I studied in Cuba. I lived in Cuba for 7 years. I have friends there. I have people who are like family to me. They reach out to me and tell me of their difficulties. Food has become terribly scarce for some. Access to water has been challenging. Garbage fill the streets. Houses without electricity. I can only feel the pain of those who treated me so well when I was a student. I can feel their challenges and their difficulties. I do not get involved in their politics, but as a matter of humanity, it is challenging. I will say it is almost impossible not to feel the pain that the pain that is conveyed to me in messages and calls from those who I lived among. And therefore I want to bring that to Caricom, so that we can look at the humanitarian situation. And like the others would have said before me, let us devise the mechanisms, the channels, so that we can help the people of Cuba at this particular time. And so Caricom can help directly. and Caricom can become a conduit for conversations so that the best outcome would be had.
And yes, Caricom can become a conduit, the best conduit. But ask yourselves the question, my Sri Lanka family. How could anyone who studied in Cuba for 7 years avoid the politics in Cuba? The Caricom chairman, Terence Michael Drew, conveniently ignored the will of the Cuban people. That's why. That's what we talk about, his reticence. He doesn't want to talk the reality. Just telling us that he studied in Cuba is not full disclosure. Terence Michael Drew must tell us that upon his return from Cuba, then Prime Minister Denzel Douglas recruited him to join the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. And on 3 occasions, he took part in a multi-party system of free and fair elections. He lost on 2 successive occasions. And on his 3rd attempt, as a result of the implosion of Team Unity, today he is the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. So why doesn't Terence Michael Drew wish the same for his friends in Cuba? So, in the event he misunderstood what his predecessor, Prime Minister Andrew Holness, said, I draw his attention to the same.
Friends, we must address the situation in Cuba with clarity and courage. Cuba is our Caribbean neighbor. Its doctors and teachers have served across our region. Its people are part of our shared history. But today, the Cuban people face severe economic hardship, energy shortages, and growing humanitarian strain. Jamaica is sensitive to the struggles of the Cuban people. Humanitarian suffering serves no one. Apart from our fraternal care and solidarity with the Cuban people, it must be clear that a prolonged crisis in Cuba will not remain confined to Cuba. It will affect migration, security, and economic stability across the Caribbean basin. It is therefore important that we carefully consider this matter and take collective action. Let there be no doubt, Jamaica stands firmly for democracy, human rights, political accountability, and open market-based economies. We do not believe that long-term stability can exist where economic freedom is constrained and political participation is limited. Sustainable prosperity requires openness to ideas, to enterprise, to investment, and to the will of the people.
That's what your colleague said, Terence Drew. Democracy. He spoke to the will of the Cuban people. Straight Talk also brings to the attention of Caricom chairman Terence Michael Drew what Kamala said about that as well.
And then there's a global focus on Cuba, right here at our Caricom. And let me remind me and us, every single leader in this room was elected by a free and fair democratic election. Everyone in our countries. And so I ask, why do some Caricom governments and political parties believe that they and their parties and their supporters should have the right to contest democratic elections to choose them as leaders, but the Cuban citizens have no right to free and fair election? And whilst I talk with you, Prime Minister Holness, I empathize with the people, the good people of Cuba, but there's a regime that's a dictatorial one, and none of us want that in our country, not one of us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. We were all elected by free and fair elections. And so we cannot advocate for others to live under communism and dictatorship. But we want to live here in our Caricom region under democracy and capitalism. That's an oxymoron, it's a contradiction. For ourselves, we want free democracy, but tell the Cuban people, okay, we feel sorry for you.
Imagine that, oxymoron. The visit of the United States Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, underscored the complexity of our strategic environment. Washington's engagement, especially on issues of crime, illegal immigration, or illegal migration that should be, and regional security, has been welcomed by some as a necessary partnership and viewed by others as a troubling intrusion into regional affairs. At the same time, Caribbean leaders are deeply concerned about the humanitarian and economic crisis in Cuba, an historic partner that has contributed doctors, like you've heard, teachers, and cultural ties throughout the region. Jamaica's leadership has urged collective and pragmatic action to avert broader destabilization. This two-track reality, navigating relations with external powers while remaining true to regional solidarity, is the crucible in which Caribbean unity is now tested. Outgoing Chairman Holness emphasized that each member state must pursue its national development goals while contributing to regional cooperation. A reminder that sovereignty remains paramount even with integration. Kamla Prasad Besesa, who forcefully named what she described as the big elephant in the room, narcotics, trafficking, organized crime, and the growing national security crisis threatening Caribbean societies. Her intervention cuts through the formalities, reframing sustainability not merely as climate resilience or economic growth, but as a public safety and state stability. The summit, as it winds up or winds down, whichever way you want to look at it, has highlighted thus far a deeper strategic dilemma. Is the Caribbean pursuing meaningful alliances or drifting into alignments by external powers? As tourism markets diversify and food security becomes urgent, the region must ask whether dependency on any single global partner undermines sovereignty. A thriving, sustainable Caricom will require balanced diplomacy, strengthened regional production, coordinated security frameworks, and the political will to act collectively. If the 50th summit is to live up to its theme, the measures of success will not be eloquent declarations, but tangible steps to confront crime, secure borders, deepen economic integration, and assert strategic autonomy. Beyond words, the Caribbean must now decide whether it is prepared to confront its elephants together. There are challenges we must address. Fragmented Caricom threatens our unity. Across these islands, leaders have spoken of togetherness and regional stability or solidarity. And my straight talk family, others have lamented that when member states like Guyana and Trinidad faced threats from Venezuela, there was an absence of collective action. There was silence within Caricom that they found unworthy of the zone of peace we proclaim. My straight talk family, citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, fellow Caribbean citizens, the elephant in the room is not merely one problem. It is a constellation of decisions that we must make together if Caricom is to truly move beyond words and actions. I therefore make the following recommendations. Let's forge in a unified foreign policy framework. Let us embrace a Caricom common position on key geopolitical issues, including Venezuela and Cuba, that upholds democratic values, addresses humanitarian needs, and protects the sovereignty of all member states. Unity does not mean uniformity, but it does require consensus on fundamental principles. We must enhance Caricom security architecture that member states facing external threats are supported collectively and not left alone to act. This could include an expanded regional security system, joint patrols, intelligence sharing, and coordinated strategies to combat transnational crime. Caricom must accelerate economic diversification, reducing dependence on volatile revenue streams like CBI investment. We should build a unified strategy for economic resilience, including trade, value-added industries, climate-resilient infrastructure, and investment in human capital, my Straight Dog family. Caricom must reassert its identity as a zone of peace, cooperation, and shared destiny, and not merely in declaration, but in action. This means honest, respectful debate, but always with mutual respect and collective purpose. Not like the so-called engineer. Don't even give him any mention. And what we must do is choose leadership over fragmentation, solidarity over suspicion, and unity in purpose over division in policy. The strength of Caricom is not quantitative, but qualitative. Caricom's strength has never been in volume. It has been in balance. For more than 6 decades since the Cuban Revolution, political power in Cuba has remained in the hands of the Communist Party of Cuba without competitive multi-party elections. And that is not propaganda. That is not ideology. That is fact. I've been to Cuba. I mean, you look at the buildings in Havana, it tells you what Cuba was like over 60 years ago. We must confront the next question. If Caribbean peoples really demand the right to choose their leaders freely, if we defend democratic governance in our own states, if we campaign on transparency, accountability, and participation, then why does our voice lower to a whisper when the conversation turns to Cuba? We stand up every high-level meeting in September at the United Nations. Lift the embargo. Why don't we say multi-party elections in Cuba? In Venezuela, meanwhile, territorial ambitions and political instability cast long shadows across our sea. And from the north, the United States, represented most recently by Marco Rubio, signaled the Caribbean alignment, or that Caribbean alignment will not be a neutral matter in an era of sharpened geopolitical rivalry. Marco Rubio did not speak to the media, but he released a statement, and he addressed 3 areas. Priority was given to the first one. If you can read that for yourself. The first is the one I have shared with many of you individually. I will share with you again. Now, we believe that perhaps the most urgent security threat in the region, that includes us, but obviously all of you, is a threat of these transnational criminal organizations. Many of you, many of whom have funding and power that rival, if not exceed, that of many of the nation states that they threaten. We recognize that it is an interlocked challenge that comes from a broader perspective. Number one, they are obviously fueled by narcotic trafficking and other illicit means. Oftentimes, those drugs and the proceeds from those drugs are destined for the United States. But the proceeds from those drugs, the money they're ultimately making, is being made in the streets of our country. This is a danger in the countries that they transit, and is ultimately danger to the national security of the United States. And that's an excerpt of the statement which was released by Marco Rubio, who left for New York last evening rather. And to this our own internal economic fragility, my Shutok family, is important. And in the midst of all of this, we call ourselves a zone of peace. But peace is not a slogan. It is a strategy. But strategy requires clarity. If Cuba falters under economic strain and political frustration, migration pressures will reach our shores. If Venezuela escalates territorial aggression, it will test our collective resolve. If Washington demands alignment in this strategic competition, it will test our diplomatic independence. And Kamala, beg your pardon, gets a pick to Mar-a-Lago, on her way to Mar-a-Lago next month to see the president. Let's speak plainly, my straight talk family. We cannot defend sovereignty in Venezuela's case while ignoring democratic aspiration in Cuba's case without appearing inconsistent, my people. And I can say, let history record that when Caribbeans stood at the crossroads, pressed by the weight of Cuba's uncertainty, challenged by the ambitions of Venezuela, tested by the influence of great powers from afar, we did not fracture, we did not flinch, and we did not fall silent. Let it be said that the nations of the Caribbean community rose above fear and declared with one voice that sovereignty is sacred, that democracy is not negotiable, that peace is not passive, and that Caribbean destiny will never be outsourced to foreign capitals. The Caribbean will not drift. The Caribbean will decide. And after all, my people, Caricom is at 50. Big elephants are in the room. And that's my story tonight, and I am not going to change it. I will open the lines and now entertain your calls and your emails. And the numbers are on your monitors, like I said before. The email address, so too, is on your monitors. I always like to implore you, though, when I open the lines, and I do so momentarily, I always like to implore you to respect others. And of course, to achieve that, you must first respect yourselves. Let us try to be fair to all concerned, and let us try to build goodwill and better friendships. And let us, my straight dog family, ensure that in the things we say and or do, they will be beneficial to all concerned. And in the process of saying and or doing those things, let us strive to build a kinder, gentler St. Kitts and Nevis. It's 8 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour, and we go straight to the lines and say good night to our first caller. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Good night, Mr. Leiber.
Good night, my dear. Quotation is.
If you are going to live, leave a legacy.
Yep.
Make a mark on the world.
Not Brantley.
That can't be erased.
You didn't hear me, right?
Hello?
I said, you didn't hear me.
No.
He said, make a mark on the world. I said, not Brantley.
Oh, no, not him.
Make on the world that cannot be erased.
That can't be erased.
Can't be erased.
I repeat, if you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening as well. Make sure that's not a Brantley. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. I love that. If you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that cannot be erased. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, you're live. Hello? Is this the Bible man?
Yeah, this is the Bible man here.
You almost got your position, man.
No, I didn't want it.
You didn't want it. You refused the position.
Yeah, I don't want it. I could have done call it a long time.
Okay. I got you. What's on your mind? Give me some Bible verses.
Yeah, what's on your mind, Mr. Pattis? Psalm 41, Mr. Pattis.
You love that psalm.
Blessed is the man that considereth the poor.
Oh, yes.
In the time of trouble, the Lord shall deliver him.
Mm-hmm.
That is, God love the poor people.
Yes.
And when you love the poor people, you're going to consider them. That is, you're going to look after them. And you don't care what happened because you love people. But when you don't love people, Mr. Pattis, you trample them. You see, Mr. Pattis, God sent his son on the cross of Calvary because he loves us. And he take care of us. And he put us here to consider one another. And he tell you, you must look after one another. And Mr. Pattis, here come a day that why you sow and why you reap. God, when you trample people, the same thing will come back to haunt you. And you'll say if you know. Well, I ain't want to preach tonight, so I could go further more than that. So I am telling you that God is a God of love. And the last passage scripture I am going to give you. For God so loved the world
Gave his only begotten Son.
that he gave his only begotten Son.
Whosoever.
And whosoever believeth in him shall not perish. That is good night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bible Man, for your biblical interventions. And we always look forward to them. Many people do. And we always welcome them. It's 9:13, my Straight Talk family. The lines are open. So to our emails, I'll take this email. Premier Brantley reads this email. Why the Prime Minister had you were seated in the back of the bus? I could see the vexatiousness in your face. Like someone said, a picture worth 1,000 words. I know you felt real bad sitting in the back of the bus when only a few weeks ago you boasted that nobody could put you in no back of any bus because you are the brightest and smartest man in the Federation. But look how cool and easy Dr. Drew made you eat humble pie when he told you that your seat at the Caricom meeting is in the audience. you had other premiers present from Montserrat to the Turks and Caicos sitting in the front of the bus, while you were the only premier shamefully in the back of the bus. What a shame it was. Dr. Joe is just your match. Take that mark, reads this email. This other email reads, Dear Patches, as I looked at the opening ceremony of the Caricom heads meeting in St. Kitts and emceed by Julie Charles and Curtis Martin, it was the most embarrassing act I have ever seen. Not slightly embarrassing, not mildly uncomfortable, the most embarrassing. Julie Charles knew that she had the flu, but still decided to present herself, only to be left watching over Curtis, who badly needed a lesson in phonics and how to read properly. It was painful to watch, painful to listen to, painful to know that this was on display before the entire region. Anyway, this is the hallmark of the July government. They saw us, a nation with 98% literacy, stumbling to call some basic words. A nation that prides itself on education, reduced to fumbling through simple pronunciation. A country that boasts about its academic achievements, yet could not competently deliver a formal program on a regional stage. It was not a small community event. It was Caricom, heads of government, regional leaders sitting there while we struggled through what should have been the easiest part of the evening. And that is what makes it worse. We were not ambushed. This was planned. This was scheduled. This was rehearsable. Yet we looked unprepared, unsure, and out of depth. When we go on the world stage and embarrass ourselves like this, it is not just two presenters who look bad. It is St. Kitts and Nevis. It is every citizen. It is our reputation. For our country, or for a country that claims excellence, what was displayed was mediocrity. For a nation that claims literacy, what was displayed was stumbling. And for a government that claims competence, what was displayed was the exact opposite. That is embarrassment. Do you know which country is called Kuraku? It's Curacao. Somebody say Kuraku? Wow. Caracao. Curacao. This was the email that said, do you know which country is called Kuraku? Wow. That's what this email is saying. This other email reads, Good evening, great one. Rattlesnake at his press conference said if Church Street can stop progress in Nevis, Charlestown must be able to stop things in Bastille. He said nothing can stop destiny. They might be able to delay it, but not stop. Patches on the big island, we have a saying, play with puppy lick your face. Patches, I know you just talk to snake on the fly. Tell him tail does not wag dog, dog does wag tail. Patriot, good night, God bless, and keep it moving. Election is upon us. Much respect and God bless. Reads this other email. Yes, my students and family, lines are open. We're taking your calls. I just said I will dispense up the emails. It's now 18 past the 9 o'clock hour. If you're joining us for the first time, Straight Talk is heard every Monday and Thursday from 8 to 10 in the PM. Every Monday and Thursday from 8 to 10 in the PM. And my Straight Talk family, if you just joined me, our thesis for tonight, Caricom at 50, big elephants in the room. And that's our thesis for tonight. The numbers are on your screen again. And like I said, the The thesis for tonight which we advanced earlier, Caricom at 50, big elephants in the room. And this is one meeting everyone is talking about. And Kamala Prasad stole the show every time around.
I know we are all committed to full and free movement. I know several Caricom islands are moving forward with that. But in Trinidad and Tobago, again, illegal migration is a big problem. It has been left to flourish not just in TNT but elsewhere. Currently, Trinbagonian taxpayers, we pay the bills for the tens of thousands of illegal migrants who have come into our country. It has put an enormous strain on our health services, government services, financial resources, and we are working diligently to resolve this illegal immigration crisis that we have. Again, many of you may not have it, but Venezuela is just 7 miles away from us. And we're going through right now to try to identify and do a registration exercise because there are thousands of them who are a drain on the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago. So at this time, I would say the greatest respect, Prime Minister Drew, Trinidad and Tobago, we are fully committed in principle to the full and free movement, but we have to deal with the thousands of illegal ones I already have in my country. So I will say, not at this time, but we agree in principle to full and free movement. And then there's the global focus on Cuba, right here at our Caricom.
And as we mentioned that global focus on Cuba, Chairman Terence Michael Drew, Prime Minister Drew, tried to strike a unifying note. But the critics observe his reticence on the geopolitical sensitivities surrounding Venezuela and Cuba. He hasn't said anything about Venezuela since the 25th, or since January the 3rd, a matter of fact, since last year. And he now decided to speak about Cuba. And this is what he said about Cuba. All he said about Cuba is this.
I must give full disclosure. I studied in Cuba. I lived in Cuba for 7 years. I have friends there. I have people who are like family to me. They reach out to me and tell me of their difficulties. Food has become terribly scarce for some. Access to water has been challenging. Garbage fill the streets. Houses without electricity. I can only feel the pain of those who treated me so well when I was a student. I can feel their challenges and their difficulties. I do not get involved in their politics, but as a matter of humanity, it is challenging. I will say it is almost impossible not to feel the pain that the pain that is conveyed to me in messages and calls from those who I lived among. And therefore I want to bring that to Caricom so that we can look at the humanitarian situation. And like the others would have said before me, let us devise the mechanisms, the channels, so that we can help the people of Cuba at this particular time. And so Caricom can help directly, and Caricom can become a conduit for conversations so that the best outcome would be had.
Why would Terence Michael Drew said that he do not get involved in Cuba's politics? Is this because he wants to conveniently ignore the will of the Cuban people? Because just telling us that he studied in Cuba is not full disclosure. Terence Michael Drew must tell us that upon his return from Cuba, then Prime Minister Denzel Llewellyn Douglas, whom he kicked out, recruited him to join the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. On 3 occasions, he took part in a multi-party system of free and fair elections. He lost on 2 successive occasions, and wasn't for the implosion of Team Unity. He most likely would have lost on his 3rd attempt. That's history. And today is the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. So why doesn't he wish the same for his friends in Cuba? Did he really misunderstand what Prime Minister Holness said? Do you believe that Drew misunderstood this?
Friends, we must address the situation in Cuba with clarity and courage. Cuba is our Caribbean neighbor. Its doctors and teachers have served across our region. Its people are part of our shared history. But today, the Cuban people face severe economic hardship, energy shortages, and growing humanitarian strain. Jamaica is sensitive to the struggles of the Cuban people. Humanitarian suffering serves no one. Apart from our fraternal care and solidarity with the Cuban people, it must be clear that a prolonged crisis in Cuba will not remain confined to Cuba. It will affect migration, security, and economic stability across the Caribbean basin. It is therefore important that we carefully consider this matter and take collective action. Let there be no doubt, Jamaica stands firmly for democracy, human rights, political accountability, and open market-based economies. We do not believe that long-term stability can exist where economic freedom is constrained and political participation is limited. Sustainable prosperity requires openness to ideas, to enterprise, to investment, and to the will of the people.
Yes, the will of the Cuban people is what Holness said, Terence Michael Drew. Kamla Prasad also brought to your attention, Mr. Chairman, a similar position.
And then there's the global focus on Cuba, right here at our Caricom. And let me remind me and us, every single leader in this room was elected by a free and fair democratic election. Everyone in our countries. And so I ask, why do some Caricom governments and political parties believe that they and their parties and their supporters should have the right to contest democratic elections to choose them as leaders, where the Cuban citizens have no right to free and fair election? And whilst I talk with you, Prime Minister Holness, I empathize with the people, the good people of Cuba, But there's a regime that's a dictatorial one, and none of us want that in our country, not one of us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. We were all elected by free and fair elections. And so we cannot advocate for others to live under communism and dictatorship. But we want to live here in our Caricom region under democracy and capitalism. That's an oxymoron, it's a contradiction. For ourselves, we want free democracy, but tell the Cuban people, okay, we feel sorry for you.
My treasure family is 929. Geopolitics and security. Between ideology and survival. At 9:29 or 9:30, that should be. Let's say good night to this caller. Caller, you live.
Yeah, Patches, good evening, man. How you doing tonight, man?
I am peaceful, my brother. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm gonna use Mahon's words, tact and diplomacy at the highest degree in SKN this week. On the real to real, being that we are the host country, the premier and the prime minister should have been presented together. And additionally, I want to say that I guess I was impressed with Andrew Holness's utterances and some part of his speech. I remember him saying that he was calling for de-escalation with the tensions between the United States and Cuba. And on the heels of the Prime Minister's presentation, I would probably want to ask, is he going to send any relief to Cuba? Will Caricom get together and send any relief to Cuba? Have they sent any relief yet? And lastly, and I'll probably come back in later, the quote, what you want to leave a mark. I guess that's on the same length of talking about like a legacy. And I would say to the Prime Minister, once he get out of this chairmanship, he should fall back and apply his expertise, the same training that he got in Cuba, a doctor. Because I know that the smart hospital that he's, tussling with would probably be that mark that he would want for himself, after he leaves. But with the Cuban crisis, with the healthcare professionals, nurses and doctors, this is going to be a problem for him going forward. Bringing that smart hospital, what he got to pay attention to is the personnel, the ability to staff professional personnel in that hospital. And with these tensions with the United States, with Cuba healthcare professionals, it's going to be a difficult task for him. So he got to put some more effort into that smart hospital if he really wanted to come. And if he was to succeed, that would be his legacy and his mark. And I want to encourage the young people of St. Kitts and Nevis to get involved in their political affairs, because we see one of the smallest nations in the world had a nucleus of worldwide leaders this week. And if they get involved in their political affairs, who knows? One of our youngsters can rise to the top. And I'll leave it there. Thanks a lot, Patrick.
Let me ask you a question, if I may. Can I?
Yeah.
Nobody seemed to want to address the issue of democracy in Cuba. I wonder why.
Okay, I'm happy you brought that up, because it's not always we can look at things one direction. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Remember, Obama made some advancement in Cuba.
Mm.
Trump came in in his first term and rolled back all of that stuff. And like I said, I was impressed by Andrew Holness's utterances, because he encouraged that de-escalation over there in Cuba. And
he encouraged democracy in Cuba. That's why he encouraged.
Yeah.
Why is democracy?
Yeah, and yes, well, yeah. Well, whatever utterances he had, like I'm saying, I was impressed with all of that.
The multi-party system in Cuba. Cuba has elections, They do have elections, they will claim. But for one party.
That dialogue with America is critical. Mm-hmm. But like you are pointing out, and I mean the system being there, You know what I mean? For all these years, man, decades, man. It's up to the people if they're going to have the will to change that system. Like me personally, that's up to the people. The people must speak when it comes to that. It ain't no outside force.
People are afraid to speak in Cuba. You don't dare speak in Cuba.
Yeah, I mean, it will be refreshing to see if Cuba goes in that direction.
Okay.
I mean, really and truly, I mean, they might have been under the system for a long time, but that's their system. And if that system was to change, however they change it, if the people change it, ain't nobody out there in this outer world to say anything about that. Because the will of the people will have to do that. Not any one of us out here. So, you know, I would like to see that personally, yeah. I mean, but like I say, it will be left up to the will of the people. They got to decide their own destiny. And I'll leave it there. Hope I answered your question.
Thanks a lot for indulging.
Yeah, thanks, Patches.
Thanks a lot. Well, this is what Holness said about Cuba.
Friends, we must address the situation in Cuba with clarity and courage. Cuba is our Caribbean neighbor. Its doctors and teachers have served across our region. Its people are part of our shared history. But today, the Cuban people face severe economic hardship, energy shortages, and growing humanitarian strain. Jamaica is sensitive to the struggles of the Cuban people. Humanitarian suffering serves no one. Apart from our fraternal care and solidarity with the Cuban people, it must be clear that a prolonged crisis in Cuba will not remain confined to Cuba. It will affect migration, security, and economic stability across the Caribbean basin. It is therefore important that we carefully consider this matter and take collective action. Let there be no doubt, Jamaica stands firmly for democracy, human rights, political accountability, and open market-based economies. We do not believe that long-term stability can exist where economic freedom is constrained and political participation is limited. Sustainable prosperity requires openness to ideas, to enterprise, to investment, and to the will of the people.
Thank you for holding, caller. You're live. Hello, caller.
Thank you. Good night, brother. Thank you. Good night, brother Patches.
Good night, my brother.
Here is it. We have democracy in the OECS, most of the territories in the Caribbean. Here is it. We have Cuba that embrace communism. Here is it. We have Venezuela that carry another system. The rest of the Caribbean islands, including the United States, have elected or a democratic free election where you go to the ballot and you select who shall be your leader to represent you moving forward. Two islands stand out, as I will reiterate: Venezuela and Cuba. Now, the United States, particular, in our hemisphere, in our region, is democratic. They're not into communism. Now, let's stick up in there. We have Donald Trump. Compared to all the previous presidents of the United States. Okay? There, it is a total different behavior. In the present right now. Now, the situation that Cuba finds itself in, the United States and the Caribbean should be uttering our differences with Cuba. Is the Cuban government and is the Venezuelan government. It's not with the people. And I will stand behind the US. The United States has no problem with the people. It is our leaders. And because of our leaders, the people shall perish. Believe it or not. So if I do not condone your way of life, it's a matter of trying to rid you out of that. So it is unity amongst the people of the Caribbean, and let those dictatorship governments go to hell. That's the way I look at it. And it will not change unless you get rid of those dictators and those authoritarian leaders. So there have to be a cleansing in any way they are. The US have to protect itself, and they have to be dominant of whatever region they're in, just like Russia is trying to be the dominant in that area, coming up from Crimea to Ukraine and try to get further. And what China is trying to do also in its region. We have three powers trying to dominate the world. Okay? But we all have to realize in our region, the US is doing what they have to do for security. The people are caught up in the mess because of our leaders. And our leaders have to be changed. Okay? It's not that the US want to control and dominate. But hey, if you are going to use my resources and you are going to be damn hypocrite to me, well, I will have to ratchet up. And that's what the US is doing. I understand, you know. The longer I live, the more I learn, the more I listen, the more I can come to my personal conclusion and perspective.
Okay.
So that's what it is. That's the reality from my point of view. I don't know if anyone will agree with me, but I said what I said, and I'm not going to change it neither. Thank you for allowing me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's go back to the line and thank this caller for holding caller you live. Hello, caller.
Yeah, good evening. Yes, good evening, Mr. Leiber.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, these leaders we have here in the Caribbean, can't understand them. They're talking about Cuba as is communist, and they need different parties and elections in Cuba. Has China changed? Has China changed from communism to anything else? As far as we know, China is communism too. But Jamaica and Trinidad, they trade with, they do business with China. So it's okay to do business with a communist China, but not communist Cuba. And when we hear these people talk, America has a convicted felon as their president. As far as we know, the Cuban president is a convicted person. The Venezuelan leader who they take out of Venezuela, he wasn't convicted of any crime. But America president was convicted of 34 accounts of charges that was brought against him. But it's okay. And we hear people calling because they're in America. Yes, we agree with America. America has a convicted felon, and we Caribbean islands them. Oh yes, it's okay to deal with America with the convicted felon, but not with Cuba. They need to go sit down. I believe we need to done with this Caricom thing. It's a waste of time.
Okay. Thank you very much, my brother. Let's go back to the lines and thank this caller for holding. Caller, you're live. Hello,
Mr.
caller.
Liebert.
Hello?
Mr. Liebert.
Yes, you're live.
How are you, sir?
I am peaceful. Yourself?
I'm blessed. I wanted to make a statement, draw analogy, but before I get into that gentleman who called Donald Trump a convicted felon, you know how many times I hear people make that statement? And many people, they just say things that they heard people say. You should have watched the case. The court said that when Letitia James brought the case against Donald Trump, it was about his property in Florida. And the bank said he was a very good customer who borrowed money from them several times and paid him back on time. And they were not hurt with anything he may have done. And the appeals court overturned it. I don't know why people want to say what you just feel like saying things and don't follow the truth. Just follow the case. Let's move on. I listened to Marco Rubio, and it was very interesting to listen to him when he spoke about the oil that used to go from Venezuela to Cuba, whose hand the oil ended up in. You know, the Prime Minister of Trinidad, that lady is going to go down at the most consequential speech of all them leaders. She's the Iron Lady of the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want that sort of government system in your country, but you want it for the Cuban people. These leaders are supporting the government, not the people. It's like a drug dealer, Mr. Liebert. They know that he's doing something wrong, but because he support the neighborhood, give them money for the kids, when the police come, they take the drug dealer side because of money. But they know very well that this person is doing something wrong. When you listen to the secretary and he makes statements about the doctors going to different countries, and who getting the money? The doctors are not getting the money. It is going back to Cuba. All of those things, would any one of them go abroad and want the money sent back to the government and not them for their children and their family? I mean, it's such a hypocrisy. The things that they want for the Cuban people, they never want it in their country. Let them not have free and fair election in St. Kitts. What will happen? What about the Cuban people? Hands off for Cuba and all of those nonsense. They should be fair-minded to the Cuban people. Have a good day.
But I'm happy you raised and I welcome your contribution. But just for clarity, though, right? Yes. In terms of the Trump appeal, he appealed the verdict, but isn't it still in the court?
Well, the appeals court, they had overturned, I think if I followed it correctly, they had, part of it, she had lost the case because I listened to the case when the judge asked the Attorney General, attorney. They said they have never seen a case like that.
That is true.
And they believe it was...
Yeah, because the bank said they will lend me money again.
Of course, the bank said they were not hurt, and they were not any victim.
The bank said they'll do the same thing.
Of course, they did agree. He may have inflated the price a little bit, but they said that it was not a problem to them because he was a very good customer.
Yeah.
And he paid them back the money on time, several times over. Every time he borrowed money from them, he paid them back. So they were astonished. The judges asked her, why was this case before them? You know, and they believe it's because of he running for office. They said they have never seen, and this was several judges. It was not one judge. So when he called Donald Trump a convicted felon, you know, he's amazing. People should just follow these cases, forget about what you do not like about the man. You know?
I believe that the procedure is still a I'm not too certain though.
Part of it, you know.
Yeah, it has been
back and forth,
been overturned though. But I understand it. It's a good point you're making though.
Have a good night though.
Yeah, thanks a lot for intervention. Very good intervention. Caller, thank you for holding your live.
Good evening, Mr. Liebert.
Good evening, my lord.
How are you, man? How are you?
I am peaceful. I am peaceful. Yourself?
Great. I'm been the same way, basically the same way.
Okay.
Yeah. The opening addresses on Tuesday evening. The Prime Minister of Trinidad, she was most outstanding. They call her the Iron Lady, and she brought up some issues there that a lot as callers have been said, a lot of other people would not address. It's unfortunate that the other heads of government, big strong men like them, afraid to say what is on their mind. But she spoke openly about it. What I noticed, or what I've been told, is that the opening sessions was Tuesday afternoon, starting over 4:30, and by Wednesday afternoon she had left the country. So I am wondering if you can find out if there was some kind of disagreement in the private sessions on Wednesday morning or whatever, and she got a little heated, or the sessions might have got heated, and she got fed up of what she might have been hearing and packed up and left the country. I went back to Trinidad. It seems strange that you're coming for a meeting from the 24th to the 27th. Tomorrow is the 27th. And she left by the afternoon of the second day, with 2 days still to go.
Well, maybe she came for bilaterals with Marco Rubio, and she's now going to see she's going to Mar-a-Lago to see the president. So perhaps those are more important things.
Okay, then talk. That'd be more important than talking to a Caricom fellow president, convincing them that they should follow her line of thinking.
Well,
because she did make some very strong points about those dictatorial countries, Cuba and Venezuela.
And she said Trinidad is first,
Yes, I mean, that's her responsibility.
Yep.
And I know since I was a small boy, Trinidad had been getting some knockabouts from Venezuela. Trinidad had held really the oil off in their own waters, because Venezuela is only, as she quite rightly said, only 7 miles away from Venezuela. Venezuela was a more dominant country. Mm-hmm. So Trinidad had to drill onshore, where Venezuela's really did in Trinidad waters, because they're the bigger boy, they're the bully.
Yep.
So, but it would be interesting to really know what really caused her to leave that early.
Well, not even spending they'll say matters of state, they will say.
Okay. But you figure that she'd have a follow-up, somebody to stay behind to represent Trinidad and give the Trinidad point of view for further discussions with the other heads of government.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs is here, so.
The Trinidad Minister of Foreign Affairs?
Yes, he's here.
Oh, it's okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll handle it then.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, my boy.
Thank you for your contribution, as usual. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, you live. Hello, caller.
Yes, Mr. Mr. Trump there were 34 charges that was brought against Mr. Trump. All of them wasn't about all of them wasn't about banking, and he was convicted on all 34 charges.
Caller, let me say this to you. The gentleman raised the point that Trump has appealed the decision, the criminal conviction in the so-called hush money case, whatever it is about, right? It was about falsifying business records. That was the case. All right? Where he inflated his property values before the bank. The bank loaned him some money. The bank, as a witness, agreed that even they may have been property value may have been inflated, but the bank also said he was a good customer. The bank said that, and the bank said they'll lend him money again.
When all this information came out, Mr. Libert, after he became president. I'm not arguing with you now. I'm just making sure you understand the facts. So I know, but I'm telling you, all this information, the bank and all this thing came out after he became president.
What information?
Did you expect about what the thing with the bank? Where you're saying that the bank say all this came out after he became president? I listened to the case.
I listened to the case. The bank was one of the only witnesses. Did you listen to the case?
I didn't listen to all of it, and I don't think you listened to all of it either.
But what I'm saying, the crux of the matter was, right, that Donald Trump falsified his business records. That's what it was all about. That's what the case was all about.
So all 34 charges was about that, Mr. Libert?
But that was the basis of the case. Right? That was the basis of the case. But I'm saying to you, the facts are. I'm bringing you the facts. I'm not defending anything or what. I'm not disputing. All I'm disputing is the matter is before the court in the federal court procedures. Right? The conviction has not been overturned. That I know. Right? But the active appeal is before the state and the federal courts in New York. That's what I understand.
I'm not against Mr. Trump because I went to a seminar while I was living in the US. I went to in 2003. I went to a seminar at his hotel where he was talking about how to go about getting do real estate and stuff. I paid $100 to go and hear him talk in 2003.
What I got to do with the case?
No, I'm just saying that, but maybe it probably sound to you all like maybe I against Donald Trump because I bring up this thing.
No. It's not that you're against Donald Trump. My role here is to correct the information. I allowed you to speak. I didn't take it on, right? Because, everybody has a right to vent. But when the gentleman raised the issue, in fact, I am saying that the Trump formally appealed the conviction to the New York Appellate Division. That is a fact. But I am saying I am not aware that the matter is concluded, meaning that the conviction has been overturned. I'm not aware of that. All I'm saying that he appealed the matter. But it is a strange case. It must be strange. You borrow money, you pay back the money, and they say you inflate your property value. So, but that is a fact. But anything,
Donald Trump. He did not file bankruptcy.
This is not about.
He did not file bankruptcy also.
Well, you could have filed the Chapter 11. Anybody could file bankruptcy. That's legal. That's not illegal. Under Chapter 11 of the United States Constitution, you can file bankruptcy.
And they brought cases against him in Georgia too. They brought cases against him in Georgia after he won. Please.
This program here is not about Donald Trump, right? Look at the mission. The mission here is about the U.S. and its new position, right, in terms of its control of the Western Hemisphere in which we live. That is what this program is all about. And the Caricom, this is not about Donald Trump. So,
but the U.S. is accusing the Caribbean, some of the Caribbean countries and the Central American countries of sending drugs to America. But what about America? Guns coming out of America, the United States to the Caribbean and to Central America. How come they're not talking about that? The same drugs that they're sending to America, they use the guns. They use the guns that come out of America to send them to.
That came up with in the meeting yesterday. What's his name? Mark Rubio made mention of that. If you look at his release, he made mention of that in terms of how they're gonna go about dealing with the guns. But there's I forgot the arrangement between the countries, but that is nothing that is hidden from the US. I mean, the Caricom has always spoken about that. That's nothing new. So, but the two wrongs don't make a right. So I mean, I don't see what's the point though. Anyway, thanks for your input, my brother, and I want to make it absolutely clear that we are not defending Donald Trump. It's not about Donald Trump. It's about the mission. The U.S. mission right now is to ensure that they control the Western Hemisphere and no extra regional powers gets into the hemisphere and control it. That's why they went down to Venezuela. That's why they're now getting Russia, and if China is there, but Russia out of Cuba. I don't see anything wrong with that. I will prefer to live under a democratic government than to live under a dictatorship. I've never lived under dictatorship, but I would prefer to stick to my democracy, no matter how bad it is. This email reads, my Straight Talk family. Let me read this email. Sorry about that. I don't have any callers. Do I have any callers? No, I don't have any callers at the moment. Wow, it's 10 o'clock. How time has flown, my Straight Talk family. This email reads, it's getting up a little slow. Good night, Patches. Why are we so indoctrinated and propagandized into believing democracy is the only way to go? Especially us who are enslaved for the sake of capitalism. What would Grenada look like today if they were not dominated? What would Cuba look like today if given a fair chance? What would the Caribbean look like if we ever seize the freedom we have to determine a path that works for us? The world has a long history. Things change over time. Democratic countries bullying democratic and communist countries alike for the sake of their own gain will eventually lead us back to slavery, unchecked greed in a gutless beast. Silence and being yes men are nearly as bad as wielding the whip ourselves. Notice, or will argue, beg your pardon, against Prime Minister Holness's speech. Political unity, speaking with one voice, might save us from being dominated one by one. Notice the larger Caribbean countries that can help the smaller Caribbean countries have never been allowed stability. You would think the descendants of former slaves would protect freedom above all else, reads this email. This other email reads, Patches, look at the difference between the speech of Andrew Holness and Terence Jew. Jew is a narcissist. His remarks regarding Cuba was centered around me, I live there. My friends are suffering and tell me about it. They cry out to me. They tell me their pain. I won't mix up in the country's politics, but I want to help my friends. So I will put before Caricom to see if we can send some humanitarian assistance to them. Nothing about support Cuba has provided the region over all these years. It was as if Cuba never do nothing for us, and he just want to help his friends and, by extension, the people of Cuba, reads this email. Good night. Just something to consider. When our Prime Minister came to tell us he negotiated on our behalf to accept deportees from third countries, then an American judge ruled that practice unlawful. What were the factors considered in this so-called negotiation, reads this email. Patches, the Prime Minister Kamala said in an interview, she said she has cabinet meeting today and on Friday, Parliament, and that's the reason she had to leave, read this email. Let's go to the lines and take this call. Caller, you live.
Good evening, Caricom, and good evening,
Yes,
good evening.
Yes, good evening, my dear.
How are you?
I am peaceful. Yourself?
What is the topic tonight?
We're looking at Caricom at 50 and the elephant in the rooms. Yes, Caricom. We're discussing the Caricom meeting here in St. Kitts.
Mr. Lightbird, let me say something to you. All those gentlemen and ladies that come for the Caricom, all the Caricom leaders, head of leaders, which one of those Caricom leaders, which one of them tonight is honest to look about the people in the country? Which one of them honest? The Bible said, do good, good follow you, When people gonna get up and go in the line in hot rain and sun who vote and put them inside there, you put them in there for them to get rich and you stay poor. I hear Dr. Ju say he gonna rise again. Where? How? What time? Not in this country because nobody in this country wants it. Neither he God and cabal them. Everybody get paid up for he and he cabal them. And the more in turn from he and he cabal them. Because he ain't doing none good in the country when they ask him how much passport he said. He said, come on for that. He don't want to hear about that. So people must go put him back inside that. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis, listen to me. Caricom, don't go put back the money there, Or you do not go and put back the money there. Wherever he don't give you take it and work him out. He and he cabal them.
Okay.
He's a bad-minded man. He's not for the people of St. Kitts. He's for himself and his family and his friend them. So how the hell he going back inside the mud? He going to rise again. The same time he think on Timothy, and the same time going to come back and hand him backside. And he ain't bringing none good to the country and he ain't looking about nobody in the country. But he said, whenever he knows, lay good on St. Vincent. And down the people tax money, go lay good on down there. He's not an honest prime minister. He's not a good leader.
Okay.
You have a wonderful night, Mr. Liban, and you get home safe. You never go back in there.
Thank you very much. Caricom's aunt always filled with passion. And yes, we agree and we trust and hope that he's not going back in there, according to you. Let's go back to the lines and thank this caller for holding. Caller, I almost forgot you on the line. Forgive me. Hello, caller.
No problem. No problem, Patches. You know that I am humble and peaceful, and I'm patient.
You'll be exalted, don't worry. He that humbleth shall be exalted.
All right, thank you for that. Patches, we are all contributors to the program. And yes, sometimes we fall short of the point and the focus that we're trying to elaborate it on. But there are some people who call into the show sometimes and they are not ready for the issues that you are about to speak with. Yes, we can deflect sometimes, or we raise our topic. But we must be aware of what we're going to speak about if we are going to speak and stop waste time. I want to jump on Caricom at.
Wait.
Sometimes. Hold on.
Where you want to go there? Where you want to go there? Where you want to jump on the phone?
No, I just want to get correct. It's not a criticism to say. It's just, I wish he could be aware of the program, then sometimes he'll be calling. Mr. Liban, what is the topic tonight? What are you talking about?
Make your point, man. Don't jump on it. Make your point.
Anyway.
Use your time wisely. You make your contribution.
All right.
I'm sorry.
So, no need to be frustrated. But anyway.
Yeah, we don't have time for that, really. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to focus on the things that are affecting us and what will improve us moving forward. Our country is in a lot of trouble, and we need to trash that out so that we could be a better nation moving forward. I will leave it right there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my Straight Talk family. As we wind down tonight's programming, perhaps I'll take one more call if that caller gets me in a matter of seconds and will be willing to be guided by the rules of brevity. A caller, you are live. Hello, caller.
Mr. Libert,
my dear.
everybody have the right to speak their mind. So I don't know what you're talking about, the lady. Everybody have the right to speak. Have a great evening.
On Straight Talk. Add that, on Straight Talk. Yes, you're entitled to your view. So we tolerate them. As a host, I tolerate them. Unless you get offensive, you're okay here, right? Someone spoke about Trump, but a friend of mine told me the other day, and these were his words: look at the mission instead of looking at Trump. It's the mission. And as I mentioned earlier, very early, about what we refer to as the Trump corollary, his version of the Monroe doctrine. I tried to explain, hopefully I did, what the Monroe doctrine was all about. And the Trump corollary deals with hemispheric security, really the Western Hemisphere to be exact. Now mark you, there are U.S. bases in Asia, there are U.S. bases all around. But the Trump corollary anticipates if they lose that authority, that strength, that power in their area, they must not lose it in their own neighborhood. And the neighborhood of the United States of America is the Western Hemisphere, including South, Central, and North America. We saw something here about Canada. I haven't been able to absorb it, so I didn't want to speak about it. The Canadians signed this $1 billion or $1 trillion agreement with China. And yes, we spoke about China, and lots of us seem to forget as well the Tiananmen Square uprising when China crushed it and killed some students and arrested some. Yes, but that doesn't justify that I should live under communism or dictatorship. As I said, I love my democracy. But Trump, under his national security strategy, framed China and Russia as revisionist powers that challenge American influence globally. No matter what we say about the Americans, if you apply to the Western Hemisphere, this amounted to what I call a revivalist interpretation of the Monroe Doctrine. He has revived that doctrine. And there's an implicit warning against strategic footholds. You want China down in Venezuela controlling the oil? Hell no. Do you want China controlling the Panama Canal? Hell no. Let's be realistic. You have to ensure that you protect, you indemnify your country against extra-regional actors. And the two main ones, two nuclear powers, China and Russia. So let's not lose sight of Washington's perspective. Not at all. this administration has decided to give priority to the Western Hemisphere. And my Straight Dog family, they have found an ally. They have found an ally in Kamla Pesad Bisesa, who told us about the elephant in the room.
To partner with the U.S. is not to undermine the Caribbean region, but to defend it. TNT will continue to cooperate with the U.S. in the best interests of our citizens to drive destabilizing and destructive forces out of our country, out of our region, and out of our hemisphere.
Yes, caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Hello. Yes, Patrick.
I mentioned number one. Turn your equipment down, please.
About what we refer to as the Trump corollary.
I can hear your equipment. Just turn it down and listen to your phone.
Okay. No, only one little question. If you do so much good things when you were in, how come you lose?
Aye?
That's my question.
Well, that's history, you know.
Some kind of bubble went down.
Well, you know. Well, that's history, my brother.
This is number one. I ask you a question. How you lose? I mean,
This is number one. I mean, this is number one. Number one.
Yeah, number one.
Where have you been, man? Yeah. It's a it's a good question, man.
Freezing me ass off in the snow.
Okay. Well, as someone,
I asked test that when I was there, you know. Yeah, he said. I said, "But I what list? Patrick, this is not good." And I vote. I let why name this student come in and outsmart I about they can get 500 ain't enough. Then this and they cut it down.
Okay, my brother. Well, my friend was just seeing is believing.
I can't. No, I asked him for joke.
Yeah.
They got new bus terminal. They got done good pier. 5 ships and so coming in. That's what I heard about. I never see 5 in, but they say 5 cool hold here. I don't know.
No, it's old stories.
But you did a great job, right?
I'm humble, my brother. Good to hear your voice, nonetheless.
Well, you're humble, but I'm peaceful, humble, and polite.
Okay. Good to hear you.
All right, take care.
All right, number one. Let's go back to the line and make this my final call for tonight. Caller, you're live.
Yeah, Patrick, let me just quickly respond to, something somebody said. One of the leaders said there about the elections in the Caribbean region. In my humble opinion, not all the time, not always, we have free and fair elections. In some cases, we see there are a lot of shenanigans going on. The lists be compromised, be breached. Stuff like that be happening. And that type of stuff got to get cleaned up. We see some of our leaders are trying to hold on to power. And they will go to all lengths too. And with that Destiny Project on Nevis, the voices of the people must be heard. Our so-called leaders, some of them have some dictatorial behaviors. And I'll leave it there. Thanks a lot, Patrick. Get home safe, man. Have a good night.
Thank you very much for your intervention. And that's the way we're going to end it, my Straight Talk family, in terms of our calls. And we wrap. This is what one leader said about. This is what one leader said, beg your pardon, about.
And then there's a global focus on Cuba, right here at our Caricom. And let me remind me and us, every single leader in this room was elected by a free and fair democratic election. Everyone in our countries. And so I ask, why do some Caricom governments and political parties believe that they and their parties and their supporters should have the right to contest democratic elections to choose them as leaders, where the Cuban citizens have no right to free and fair election. And whilst I talk with you, Prime Minister Holness, I empathize with the people, the good people of Cuba, but there's a regime that's a dictatorial one, and none of us want that in our country, not one of us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. We were all elected by free and fair elections. And so we cannot advocate for others to live under communism and dictatorship, but we want to live here in our Caricom region under democracy and capitalism. That's an oxymoron, it's a contradiction. For ourselves, we want free democracy, but tell the Cuban people, okay, we feel sorry for you.
An oxymoron. And yes, my Shritak family, it was Kamala Persad-Bissessar who forcefully named what she described as a big elephant in the room: narcotics trafficking, organized crime, and a growing national security crisis threatening Caribbean societies. Our intervention cut through the formalities, reframing sustainability not merely as climate resilience or economic growth, but as public safety and state stability. The summit, from all reports, has highlighted thus far a deeper strategic dilemma. Is the Caribbean pursuing meaningful alliances or drifting into alignments shaped by external powers? As tourism markets diversify and food security becomes urgent, the region must ask whether dependency on any single global partner undermines sovereignty. A thriving, sustainable Caricom will require balanced diplomacy, strengthened regional production, coordinated security frameworks, and the political will to act collectively. If the 50th summit is to live up to its theme, the measure of success will not be eloquent declarations, but tangible steps to confront crime, secure borders, deepen economic integration, and assert strategic autonomy. My Shritak family, there were challenges. We once Caricom stood as a beacon of unity. Now some member states feel that our positions on Cuba and Venezuela on democratic principles and regional security reflect internal contradictions rather than a shared compass. I gave you some recommendations. Forge a unified foreign policy framework was one of them. Another was strengthen regional security cooperation. Another, deepen economic integration and diversification. Reaffirm our identity and values. And my Shritak family, let us choose leadership over fragmentation, solidarity over suspicion, and unity in purpose over division in policy. Let us understand, Caricom's strength has never been in volume, it has been in balance. And my Shritak family, we must encourage, or we must be courageous enough to admit that fact. Then we must also confront the next question. If Caribbean people elsewhere demand the right to choose their leaders freely, if we defend democratic governance in our own states, if we campaign on transparency, accountability, and participation, then why? Why does our voice lower to a whisper when the conversation turns to Cuba? Meanwhile, in Venezuela, territorial ambitions and political instability cast long shadows across our sea. Our CBI revenues are dwindling. Youth employment rises. Crime networks exploit our vulnerabilities. Climate shocks batter our economies. My Shritak family, we cannot defend sovereignty in Venezuela's case while ignoring democratic aspirations in Cuba's case without appearing inconsistent. Sovereignty is sacred. It's not negotiable. Peace is not passive. And Caribbean destiny will never be outsourced to foreign capitals. The Caribbean will not drift. The Caribbean must decide. After all, my people, Caricom is at 50. Big elephants are in the room. And that's my story tonight, and I am not going to change it. I must thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight, as always. I want to thank you, the callers, the emailers, those of you who viewed, those of you who listened. Remember, all of you are the ones who make Straight Talk, and for that I say a big, big thank you. Those of you who sent emails as well, you are the ones who make Straight Talk, and I say a big, big thank you. Someone sent me something to play. It's difficult for me to just play these records or recording of sound bites that you send me. That's not how we do it here on Straight Talk. But thanks nonetheless for your support. Thanks for listening. And remember, whatever your mind conceive, that you will achieve. But first of all, you must believe. So when you wake in the morning, thank God for the morning light. Thank Him for taking you through the night. And my Straight Talk family, have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Be good to all whom you meet. Do your chores. Go to church. Find constructive things to do. And remember, keep moving on. Until we connect on Monday, bye-bye, my Straight Talk family.
The morning, I thank God for the morning light. Give Him thanks and praises for taking me safely through the night. For the rest of food and loving care, and for my mother's breath of life that's got me here. So whatever my mind conceives that I will achieve, you better believe, because I do the things I should, be to my brethren kind and good, the best I could. So I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on till I reach the top somehow. Down on my knees the Lord I kneel and pray, with my heart and soul, beg Him to take me through each day, my guardian to keep and my guide, over every step I take, He will preside. So whatever my mind conceives that I will achieve, you better believe, because I do the things I should, be to my brethren kind and good, the best I could. So I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on till I reach the top somehow. My way with strength and courage from above. No man I'll fear, since God protects me with His love. Strong, pure and true, and so sincere, 'cause my